Hello and welcome to step 3. Yes, it's been quite a bit of time since I did step 2. Apologize for that. A lot has been going on. Don't mind the pliers on this end. I'm using this to help fold over the instruction booklet at this point. So a couple of things that I wanted to go over with everybody while we're in on this is initially you're starting out with what they're calling ducting, and that is this plastic coated stranded copper wire that they give you a big chunk of. Just so you know, inside that strand of wire I had measured out one and kind of screwed it up, but I opened it up to make sure, and inside, instead of a single piece of solid copper, it is, at least in the kit that I've got, it's 5 strands of smaller copper that is in there. It's not even really wound, it's just 5 strands of copper with the tubing on it. So plan accordingly for how you're doing your gluing. That's important, and I'll show you why. So everybody's aware, I'm using my black super glue. They call it tire glue. It's got, well, it ends up being kind of flexible once you're done using it. There's a little bit more give in it. It's cyanoacrylate with a little of vinyl in it, I guess. I like it. But I have measured out, pre-measured out using my ruler with my metrics. 2 that are 95 millimeters long and 2 that are 105 millimeters long. I have not measured out these yet, so ignore those. Next thing is figuring out how everything weaves around in here. So here we've got this, and it is, let me grab my knife here to point. It is saying that you want to run these cables for these first 2 sets of plugs. And the first thing, and this is why I looked in there, the first thought was, oh, I'll just pull out some of the copper, cut it off, make a little hole inside there, and it'll slip right over there, and that'll be that. It doesn't work that way with this particular type of wire. So I'm going to be using the, like I said, the black cyanoacrylate super glue. But first and foremost is you want to take your, with this kind of stuff, you want to take your pliers and give it a good 90-degree bend like that. And I don't like having that little bit of copper show on there. I think that that's going to cause problems. So what I'm going to do is nip this off flush, like so. That will get me and allow me to glue this on. Now, the way that they color code this is the 95 millimeter hoses are the lighter colored ones on the outside, and the longer hoses, the 105 millimeter ones, are the darker colored ones on the inside. You want to start basically from the front and work your way back. It's going to be easier, so I'm going to be putting it on here and here. So I dipped it in the super glue, and I want to get, in this case, a fair amount on there without making too much of a mess. And that is a difficult job. Even though this is wire, it tends to be a little bit more flexible. You almost need 17 hands to get this to work, but okay, we're going to try something new on the fly right here, just because this is kind of a pain. So first things first, I'm going to take my debonder, put it on, and clean this up. We don't need a mess in here. for what we're trying to do. So there's that. I think the next best thing to do is to butt joint rather than trying to coat it over this little circular piece and all that. I'm going to clip that little bit off so that it's fairly clean. I'm going to get a little bit of fresh glue on the end of that again. And I'm also going to thread it through here because, careful there. So as you can see, it goes through and it actually goes over. So I'm going over this bar, but it's going to snake over in that. So that's what I want to try and replicate. So I'm already trying to fold this a little bit. Yeah, it's a little gymnastics, but I'm hoping this allows me to get this in there. So I've got that. Now you're saying, why not just use the accelerant? Well, I've got to put the one on behind it. There we go. Yes, I'm almost out of accelerant. And as you can see, things don't always want to work the way they're supposed to. There we go. That feels better. I'm sorry you guys aren't being able to see much. I do have to hold this kind of close to get it to work. Now the big thing about this is once you've got that attached, don't mess with it. Because if you mess with it, there's a good chance it breaks off and then you got to do it again. What a headache. So I'm going to assume that there's accelerant that is on that nub now. And you'll see how this is set up. I'm going to want a little bit more on the end of this cable, so it pokes out on the outside of that. And I don't know why, it seems like this was bending as I was moving it towards the piece, but this is just measuring at this point just to make sure, yeah, that'll go by it, that's what I want, that works. And as before, I'm going to nip this off. Now maybe it would work normally with that on, but why take the chance? And then it's a matter of just kind of wrestling it in there, getting it where you want it. And I will say this, you know, if you're doing this and you're like, man, this is hard. Well, if it feels hard, it's probably because it is hard. Yeah, the accelerant, if there was some there, is gone. So it accelerated it, but it put it in the wrong spot. I'll see if I can adjust it. Nope, it came off. So you can see that there are problems. And you might want to also, you know, keep your workbench area clear, make sure everything's available beforehand, unlike me. So I've got stuff falling in the background that you can't see. Kind of sad, but there. So it gets a little frustrating. And if you're feeling frustrated, you're in good company. Best thing you can do then, just clean up, try again. You're trying, model hasn't beaten you. And I've been kind of part of the reason why I haven't done the videos in a while is I knew this particular step with all this going on and all this stuff and gluing these on and that, this is going to be a bit much. Now here's the deal. I'm going in. I want this to go up. I want this to go over the wire in there like that. I need to be able to do it from behind, like so, like this, and have control. That's asking a lot. So there's just no seeming to win. This wants to go wherever it wants to go. You want to get it on. There we go. Just keep messing with it till we find what works. That didn't work. If I sound frustrated, it's because this is taking all of my patience to do this. And because this is not solid copper wire, this is also not taking direction well. You know, I'm moving it around with my hand, and it's very flexible because it still has the 5 strands of wire in it instead of a solid copper core. So if you want to do something to help yourself out, one thing that could be done is replacing this wire with solid copper wire. There, now it's attached. So you can see I'm struggling with it. It's taking quite a bit of work just to get to this point. What I am going to do next is clean that up a little bit underneath. Just because it's a pain doesn't mean you want it to look sloppy. I mean, this is a lot of work. We're doing a lot here. We've gone through all these steps. Certainly not going to let this one beat us. Now, it is kind of important because this is going to be very visible on the model. You want this to look good. Okay, so where are these going? They don't really say in here where these are going. However, having done the work and measured it out, you can see they run underneath and they go up in this area. They run up, it looks like they run up to the pistons. So you'll want to take the shorter one, the inside one, not this one, and run that underneath to here. Boom. But I can tell you now, no truck driver with this is going to leave these just flopping and hanging where anybody can snag them and rip them off. These hydraulic lines or pneumatic lines. I think they're hydraulic, but I don't know. So you're going to want to glue it, and then you'll want to tuck these wires at least out of the way for now. They're going to get covered up with the steps on this side. And then various things later on, but you don't want them being in the way on that side. So again, make sure you know which one is which. This is the shorter one. First things first, I'm going to put a 90-degree notch in it, like so. And if that doesn't have any wire in it because it's moved, you really got to pinch it to get it to go the way you want. With that, I'm going to put a little glue on the end. Now, I didn't with this one because I don't have any wire in there. I'm going to see if I can get that bit to go over. I'm going to have to use the forceps here to do that. The little bit of the hole. I want to see. I want to see how hard it is. Is it worth getting that out? Well, it goes over it. So I mean, first things first. If you're able to knock the wire out on either end, it will go right over that little nub. There's nothing in the instructions that mention any of that I've seen. So this is hopefully something that'll help. So on this end, like I said, the copper wire had come out. And so we utilized that to our advantage. On this one, the copper wire is still in there. How do you get that out? I have no idea. What I'm trying to do, honestly, is to build up a pool of glue that's the same depth as the wire. And this one I want to put a slight bend in. I would love to be able to just put it on and butt it up on the pin and get it to stay, but I don't think that will. Yeah, see, it just bounces off. I'm gonna need to. Sorry guys, I gotta go off camera here. Leave that there. And left-handed, try and. There we go. Nice solid hit. See if I can get that to at least. Nope. There we go. I've got it on there. Is it sticking? Not really. Super glue or not, the problem with dealing with super glue and plastic and vinyl and bending and yeah, it's just, and that end just came off. And that end won't connect. So I want you to see this is all a pain in the butt regardless. Nobody's really got a secret fix that I know of that works. There, I got that on there. Hopefully that'll stay attached. There's a little extra glue. little accelerant. And the accelerant, does accelerant work? Does it not work? Yes, it works when it wants to. Does it work with this vinyl stuff? Yes, when it wants to. This vinyl wiring that they give you from Trumpeter is just, or Hobby Boss, is just so doggone flexible. It's hard to keep it under control. I mean, I'm literally watching it bend about 40 degrees, and that's not because it's got the vinyl in it. I mean, it's not that much of a bend from the glue side. So there, it's stuck again. And you want to keep this not with these lines, these wires, these pieces of tubing, whatever. You don't want them flopping around. I mean, we're working hard on making this real, well, sort of realistic. So, what we want in the end is everything kind of tucked up in here. Oh, I made a mistake. Here's the problem. I put these lines over on this cylinder. Which one's going to be easier to do? Swap these lines over to this side or swap these lines over to this cylinder? That's a rookie mistake right there. That's totally on me. When I flipped it over, I forgot that I'm reaching over to the other side. So, warning to you all, pay attention. So first thing I'm going to do is clean up some of this. Honestly thought this was going to be easier than this, and that's with me thinking that oh, this is going to be a huge headache. So you know, I wouldn't dread this step. I mean, it's not like I'd skip it or somehow just say, you know what, I'm not going to build that kit. This is more just, hey, I know that this is what's waiting for me. You know, don't try and do this in 20 minutes. When you got, you know, oh, hey, I'm going to go to bed in half an hour. I'll just crack this out before I go. That's not going to do it. I'm going to switch these bottom ones over because, to be honest, to me, it seems like that'd be the easier way to go. And in this case, I'm just going to trim these off. Like such, I'm going to go starting with the small one. Right there, and flip it over like that, and I still have my very bad habit of taking and moving this with me. And as you can see, it does not want to cooperate. So how do we do this? Well, we just keep trying. For whatever reason, this super glue wasn't sticking at that point. Now it just kind of decided to stick. Put a little bit of glue in there as well. Again, back to cleanup. I know, it seems like such a headache, but This is where the detail is. When it's done, this is the stuff where you go to the show and you look at the people who've done great things and you're like, wow, how do they do this? You know, how can I get good like them? Or, you know, what's the difference? Well, persistence in this case. You've got to be willing to work and work and work and work and work at it until you finally figure out what'll make it, what'll fix it, what'll do it. What gets the actual job done. I'm going to bend this wire as much as I can ahead of time so that I can actually just kind of put that on and hold it, kind of dry fit it on there. So it takes a little bit of work. And this, by the way, I might just get these two on and call it for part one here, because this is taking a fair amount of time just to do this little bit. There. Now that I've figured it out and I've got it in position, I'm going to put some glue right in there. I've got this being held by my finger. Accelerant. And I'm just holding on until I don't feel like it's going to move, because I do not want to have to try and do that again using this. Now, it's not as clean and crisp as somebody might like, and like I said, I think the best thing would be to go out and to get some 0.7 millimeter solid core wire, if such thing exists. I'm going to let go now. There. That's good. And like I said, so you want to have these kind of lay down, lay around, look good, because they're supposed to represent like some weight, these hoses. These are not just floppy doppy, they're filled with most likely fluid. I'm guessing they're hydraulic lines. Yeah, they have to be, because those pistons, I doubt those pistons would be pneumatic. They could be. Anyway. What I'm getting at is, this is now set up, and this pretty much looks like what you'd want. It's set up good. That end looks better. This is a little sloppy. Let's clean that up a little bit. But it's been a half an hour to get this done and talk about it. So let's clean this up and call it good for just the very beginning step. Think about how I started out with this and where I finished with it. And what worked, it looks like preforming, dry fitting, holding everything down before you do it. So I've got it in place. I was holding it on that pin, had that rubbing against it. This here shouldn't be a problem. But let's clean it up in case. So there we go. Just so getting those first two lines in. We'll stop here, and next time we'll put in the other two lines, and I bet it's going to go a lot quicker now that we've done that. Until then, have a good day.